Hi, I'm Skylar, and this is my story. It all began when I saw Birdie in the first grade. She was playing the old school piano. I listened with my mouth wide open because I couldn't believe a 6-year-old could play like that. It was magical. Our meeting was the start of everything. I sang, she played, and there was this strange musical chemistry between us, like we were made to perform together. One day, our school organized a concert, but right before it started, it turned out that one of the participants had gotten sick. Our teacher, Miss Daisy, came running to us, looking lost.
Girls, you will perform instead.
I was so nervous I could hardly breathe, but Birdie simply nodded, and I had to agree too, because, well, what was I supposed to do? My friend had already decided for both of us. We performed, and it was like the school hall turned into a huge stadium, and everyone only listened to us. I sang like I was trying to prove to everyone that I was a real star. Birdie played so well, the audience got goosebumps, even on their noses. When we finished, the audience burst into applause. After our performance, Miss Daisy came up to us.
Girls, you should start a band. That was amazing.
That's how our band, Skybird, was born. Miss Daisy even got us a small room next to the choir room so we could practice. It smelled of dust and old laminate flooring, but hey, it was our first studio. Years went by. I wrote the lyrics and Birdie wrote the music. We performed at school events, at competitions, and then even in the town. One day, we were invited to a TV show. We were so nervous, but we did it. I sang, Birdie played, and the audience had no choice but to admire us. We quickly got fans, and people that envied us appeared just as quickly. Some of our classmates looked at us as if we'd stolen their place on the school throne, but we didn't try to stop them from coming up with reasons to be angry. The craziest thing happened at a contest after we beat the band called Dracula's Leeches. Yeah, I know. That's really their name. When we returned to the dressing room, it was trashed. Our clothes were on the floor, our costumes had been torn, and there was some nasty stuff written on the mirror. I almost burst into tears, but then the contest organizer appeared.
Congrats. If they bothered to take revenge on you, it means that you are truly talented.
Miss Daisy was our biggest fan. She literally couldn't live without our music.
You should stick together, no matter what.
And we did. Or at least, I tried. But Birdie's temper got worse over time. I was light, joy, ideas that appeared out of thin air. But Birdie was rain, shadows, storms, closed off, silent, stubborn to the point of insanity. Whenever I wanted to make a pop song, Birdie would say, no, let's go with rock. If I wanted to add something bright and cheerful, Birdie suggested making everything darker. I was afraid of losing her. I was afraid of destroying Skybird and my dream because it was thanks to our duo that I could be on stage. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you do, you will soon receive an offer that you won't be able to refuse. And then one day, when I was walking home after a rehearsal, I heard the soft sound of a car driving behind me. I looked back and saw a limo. It was driving slowly like it was following me. I walked faster, and the limo also sped up. Was someone trying to kidnap me? Great. But the car stopped, and a man in an expensive suit got out of it.
Skylar, wait, I have an offer for you.
It turned out that he was a producer of a major music label. He had heard Skybird's songs and suggested I sign a contract with him. What about Birdie?
I want to sign up only you.
I didn't know what to do. The thing I had dreamed of for years was standing right in front of me in the form of a man in an expensive suit. I could become a star. But what about my band? Birdie, Miss Daisy. I spent all night thinking about this offer, and in the end, my dream won. I signed the contract and added the condition that I would perform under the pseudonym Little Star so that no one would realize it's me, especially Birdie. From that moment on, I led a double life. One day, I was Skylar from Skybird. Then the next, I was Little Star recording songs in a studio with a producer. I lied to Birdie every day. I wasn't proud of it, but I couldn't stop. And then one day, Birdie ran up to me and told me that we had been invited to a cool music competition that was going to take place in a week. It was our chance to get our big break. To be honest, I didn't care anymore because I had my own path to success. I even thought about telling Birdie the truth, but then Miss Daisy appeared.
Girls, you can only win if you're together. Don't lose each other.
Birdie looked at me with trusting eyes. Miss Daisy was smiling. I felt overwhelmed with guilt and wanted to sink through the floor, so I smiled and played along. Of course, we can do it. The more I tried to hold on, the worse it got. I was afraid that Birdie would find out the truth, and then our band, our friendship, our Skybird would come to an end. Most importantly, I felt like I wronged Miss Daisy, who believed in us so much. Meanwhile, they started to play the song I'd recorded with my producer on the radio. One day, Birdie and I were in the bus on the way to our rehearsal when the driver turned on the radio, and my song came on. I literally jumped in my seat. Sky, that sounds so much like your voice. Of course, I quickly said that it was just a coincidence, even though it sounded pathetic. But Birdie nodded and seemed to calm down. Or was she just pretending? That was just the beginning. We arrived at school and saw that the door to our rehearsal room had been broken down. All our notes, texts, sketches had been torn into pieces and scattered on the floor. I froze, and my heart sank. It was probably the classmates of ours that constantly glared at us and called us divas. I was ready to scold them, but when I found them, they just stared at me, confused.
We spent the whole day helping our teacher with a scientific project. That's right, Skylar. They were with me the whole time.
Dang it, so they weren't involved. But who trashed our rehearsal room then? I went back to Birdie. The strangest thing was that my friend was much calmer than I expected. I thought Birdie would be miserable, stop talking, say it was over. But no, she just sighed and said that now we had to start over. We stayed up all night, picking up scraps of paper, gluing them together with tape, and writing down the damaged parts again. It felt like we were trying to make our band rise back from the ashes, and it was really hard. By morning, my eyes were closing, but we agreed that we would meet after sleeping and keep rehearsing. I slept until lunch because it was Sunday. Then I packed and ran to school. As I was walking down a hallway and thinking I should stop being so on edge, suddenly someone snatched my phone out of my pocket from behind. Before I could do anything, they ran down the hallway. Of course, I followed them. All I could see was that they wore a hoodie. I turned around the corner and saw that the phone snatcher had disappeared. But then I noticed that the broom closet door was ajar. I didn't doubt they hid there. I pulled the door open and looked inside, but it was empty. But the next moment, someone behind pushed me forward. I fell into the closet, the door closed, and the lock clicked. I pounded on the door and yelled, but the school was empty and no one heard me. I didn't have my phone anymore, so I just sat in the closet trying to figure out who was behind it all. What were they doing it for? It couldn't be my classmates. There were no other suspects, and that made it even scarier. I sat there until a security guard walked through the school in the evening. He heard me yelling and opened the door.
What on earth are you doing here?
I only sighed, grabbed my phone from the floor, and ran to the rehearsal room. It was closed, of course. I called Birdie, expecting her to yell at me for being late, but she surprised me.
I waited a bit, but then realized you were probably busy and went home.
That strange calmness of hers frightened me. The next day, I came to the studio for work, but as soon as I walked in, I saw the producer, happy as a clam.
I have great news. You are going to perform at a music competition soon, little star.
Dang it! He was talking about the very competition Birdie and I were going to perform at. Everything inside me collapsed. I tried to explain that I couldn't, that I had things to do, that I was sick, but the producer said it was too late. My name was on the list, and there was no turning back. Meanwhile, Birdie was acting weirder by the day. Whenever she got a call, she would walk away so that I wouldn't hear what she was talking about, even though she had never done that before. It was clear she had some sort of secret. It was all driving me crazy. One day, I came to school, feeling out of sorts, and saw that Birdie was nowhere to be seen. Hey, Birdie, why aren't you in class?
I'm, sick. I decided to skip today.
I could tell from her voice that she was lying. I started shaking and had a nervous breakdown right in the middle of the lesson. Miss Daisy led me out into the hallway and asked me what was going on. I couldn't tell her about my producer and said that the competition was approaching. Someone was messing with us and I was afraid to perform.
Calm down. I'll deal with it. You and Birdie should stick together and you will succeed.
Over the next couple of days, I tried to come up with ways to hide my participation in the contest. Should I go wearing a wig and hide my face? But Birdie would recognize my voice anyway. And then I came up with a desperate idea. I decided to break Birdie's synthesizer. No synthesizer, no performance. I know it was terrible and despicable, but I managed to convince myself that it was necessary to save our friendship, our band, our bond. But to be honest, deep inside, I feared that our bond had been falling apart for a while, and that it was my fault. On the day of the performance, I came to school early to deal with Birdie's synthesizer. I was walking down the hall and thinking, I'm going to walk into the rehearsal room, smash the synthesizer, and that's it. But it felt worse with every step. My palms were sweating. I imagined Birdie's face, her round eyes, trembling lower lip, and immediately wanted to turn around and run away. As I approached the rehearsal room, I realized something. I can't do it. I'm not a monster. Just as I reached that decision, I saw that the door of the rehearsal room was ajar. The light was on inside. I looked in and couldn't believe my eyes. The guy in the hoodie was leaning over Birdie's synthesizer and breaking it. Hey, you! He stopped without turning around, and then suddenly shoved me with his shoulder and ran to the door. I chased after him again. We ran out into the hallway, almost hitting someone on the way. That guy was fast. He almost reached the school entrance, and I thought that I wouldn't be able to catch up with him. But then, bam, Miss Daisy came around the corner.
Stop right there.
She grabbed that guy by the hood so hard it fell off his head. I recognized him. He was a member of Dracula's Leeches, the one that trashed our dressing room. So all the nasty things that happened to us were your doing?
Serve you right.
He snapped at us that they were also performing that day and wanted to get rid of competition. Miss Daisy called the police without hesitation. I testified in a trembling voice. My hands were shaking. The guy was taken away. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, my phone rang.
Where are you? The competition has started.
Dang it! I got into a taxi and rushed to the competition. On the way there, I suddenly realized Birdie hasn't come to school to get her synthesizer. It was weird. Very weird. Backstage at the contest, my producer's assistant immediately dragged me into the dressing room, threw glitter on me, dressed me, and made me rehearse my song one more time. Soon, I was standing backstage and waiting to be called on stage. I couldn't stop thinking, Birdie knows. She knows. She knows. She knows. Someone was performing on stage. I peeked out to see them and couldn't believe my eyes. Some guy was singing, and behind him at the piano was Birdie. After they finished, the host announced loudly,
Give a round of applause for the new duo. The vocalist is Stanley and the composer is Birdie.
The audience burst into applause. Backstage, I bumped into Birdie. She avoided my eyes.
I'm sorry. I should have told you. A label made me an offer. Just me. Without you.
At that moment, everything fell into place like a puzzle that finally came together. So that's why she had been acting weird, and why it always felt to me like we hadn't been a team in a long time. I felt so relieved, like someone had lifted a huge bag of bricks off my shoulders. I hugged her, just like that, without saying anything. The next moment, I was called on stage. I need to go. She blinked at me as if seeing me for the first time.
So, the little star is you?
But I was already walking on stage. When the spotlight fell on me, for the first time, I realized that I wasn't self-conscious at all. It felt like I had grown wings. I sang like I had never sung before. The audience clapped loudly, sincerely, and someone even whistled. After my performance, Birdie and I had a calm conversation. It turned out that we both received offers from different producers, and we both couldn't bring ourselves to refuse. We had been so afraid to hurt each other that we kept silent, making things worse. We decided that, moving forward, we should work on our solo careers. And then, the host announced the last participant, Skybird. It's us! We went back on stage. After the song, I announced that it was our last performance together because Skybird was disbanding. The audience buzzed, disappointed. But Birdie and I had already made a decision. The competition came to an end, and the judges announced the winner. Who do you think it was? Ironically, the prize went to Skybird. That is both of us. I thought my producer would fire me, but to my surprise, he looked pleased when I saw him.
Amazing. This is great PR for Little Star. That is, for you.
The next day, Birdie and I told Miss Daisy everything. We thought she would be happy, but for some reason, she seemed offended.
You should have saved your duo!
Someday, she will understand. Time passed. I was working on an album. Rumor had it Birdie was doing well too. We talked less than we used to, each focused on work. That's when I realized something. Birdie and I had never been friends. The only thing that kept us going was the fear that we'd be lost if we were all by ourselves. But once we let go of that fear, it turned out that we were doing just fine alone. Trying to hold on to something that is no longer there, you risk losing yourself. That's what I finally realized.